Morning, boys and girls. Our very first ever online assembly. Lots of interesting things to look forward to this week, new ways of doing things, and I hope that you find learning online from home not so difficult as that may sound. So your teachers have worked really hard this last few weeks putting together materials for you, making sure that you're able to access things, and also trying to find ways to help you with your learning. So I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment, but first of all, hope that you are all ready to go for a really, really full week of exciting things that we're going to be doing. And we're going to start off this assembly with a musical performance. Will is going to play for us. So, Will, here you go.
This is Dusty Blue by June Armstrong.
Well, thanks for that, Will. So that's our very first musical performance of the term. And if you'd like to perform in assembly, please can you send me a video of you playing your instrument, or can you send a copy of the video to Mrs. Hughes? Either way, we'll make sure that we get those included in assembly, and we look forward to your performances as the term goes on. Now, because we're working online this term, and that's very different to being in the classroom, there are some important things that you need to remember. And the next part of our assembly is a very special presentation by Miss Owens in which she talks about e-safety.
Thank you for participating in the King's Hawford e-safety lesson. It is a short presentation to underline the importance of staying safe online at all times, and especially when learning from home. How will I access my learning? The school have chosen to use Class Dojo, Shobi and Zoom. On Shobi, teachers will set work and you will be able to see this, complete it and send it back to your teacher so that they can mark it and provide feedback. Zoom is a video conferencing app. You will be invited daily to join live video sessions with the other children in your class. Class Dojo will be used as a social platform for the class where teachers, students and parents can communicate. Once accounts for these apps have been created, it is important that you keep usernames and passwords for these secret and not share them with anybody else. The school will give you a timetable detailing when work will be set and when to access video lessons. Please only access work and video lessons at this time. If you choose to enter video chats outside of these school times, make sure that you have your parents' permission. How can I be a good friend online? Be respectful, a good listener, caring, trustworthy, reliable, thoughtful, fun and honest. Be everything that you are offline. Being online is no different to being with your friends at school. Always think before you type or send anything, as it usually stays there forever. Think, would I say this to them at school, and am I being kind? When you're talking on a Zoom video chat, it is more important than ever to be a good listener, trustworthy using the technology and respectful of your friends who are also on the video chat. Always make sure you wear suitable clothing, such as those that you would wear for non-school uniform days, and make sure your camera is in a sensible location. This means not in your bedroom and preferably away from older siblings so that they can't hear your conversations and you can't hear theirs. What do I do when things go wrong? Sometimes things go wrong online, like they do every day at school. You shouldn't worry about this. There will be many ways to solve the problem. If something appears on the screen that worries you, shut the screen or turn over your iPad and tell your parent or teacher. Try not to close down the program, as it is useful for the adult to see what has popped up. If you press something accidentally and you do not know how to return to the correct page, stop and tell an adult. If you try and fix it yourself, you may move further away from the correct page. If you say something that you think has upset one of your friends, tell an adult. We can't see each other's faces online, therefore conversations can be misunderstood. Talk to an adult about it. You may not need to do anything, or you may simply need to say sorry to your friend and explain what you meant. How long should I spend on my device? The school will send out a timetable of when you will need to access work on Shobi or be on Zoom video chats. It is likely that you will be spending longer on your device than you usually would in a school day. If you spend too long on your device, you may find that you have neck ache, headache, feel tired, or feel a bit moody. Your teachers have planned in little breaks in your learning. At these times, it is important to step away from your device, get a drink, talk face to face with your family, and maybe have a walk outside. This should help you feel better and ready for the next period of learning. At weekends, why not try and have a device-free day? Can everybody in your family last the whole day without a phone, TV, laptop, or iPad? Where can my parents go to find out more? If your parents want to find out more, they could watch these videos with you or go onto the provided websites to find out about staying safe online. So, that's the end of the lesson. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and enjoy learning online.
So thanks to Ms Owens for that presentation on e-safety, which is something that we will need to remember and take note of as we work online this term. Our assembly today focuses on two special events that will be occurring later on this week. One on the 23rd of April, this Thursday, and one on Friday. Let's talk about Thursday first, 23rd of April. Now I'm sure quite a lot of you know why that's a really important day for English people. It's because it's the feast day of St George. St George is the patron saint of England. It's St George's Day, in other words. Now, St George is a real person. He lived quite a long time ago, and the presentation you're going to see next is his story. Now, I say he's a real person because there's also a story about St George that most probably did not occur, and that's the story of St George and the Dragon. I'll tell you that story. It's a really important one for those people who like to know about St George, and St George and the Dragon is probably the most famous story that people know when they think of St George. On the 23rd of April, we'll also be celebrating the birthday of a really important English person, and that's William Shakespeare. I love William Shakespeare's plays completely, and you will hear a little bit from one of his best plays, Henry V. Lots of course people argue about which is Shakespeare's best play. I'd argue Henry V's right up there as one of his better ones. Perhaps Hamlet, maybe, perhaps King Lear, but I love Henry V, and you'll hear a little bit from that towards the end of the presentation. So here is the story of St George's Day and St George and the Dragon, and a little bit of Shakespeare for you. Now, today's assembly is about St George. St George's Day is this week on Thursday, and it's a very special day. It's the day on which we remember England's patron saint. Our patron saint is St George. A very special day for us. You will see that flag flying. Certainly I'll fly it at Hawford on that day, thinking of you all. It's the English flag, the red cross on the white background. And often when people talk about St George, they also remember the dragon. And I'll tell you the story of St George and the dragon in a moment. People think of other symbols of England. One is the red rose. You see the red rose there? It's often thought of as the English rose. The tree is the oak tree, another symbol of England. That particular oak tree is a famous one. It's right in the middle of Sherwood Forest, And so we are told it's where Robin Hood, a very famous English person, met Friar Tuck and Maid Marian. They met under that tree, and it's in Sherwood Forest. Often you will see also the Tudor rose. The Tudor rose is a red rose and a white rose combined. It doesn't really exist, it's not really a flower at all, but it's a symbol of the fact that at the end of the Wars of the Roses, the House of Lancaster and the House of York came together. So that is on the emblem, I think it is, of each of our English kings and queens. So who was St George? He's the patron saint of England. His emblem is a red cross on a white background. It's the flag of England and also part of the British flag, the Union flag. St George's emblem was adopted by Richard the Lionheart, and it was brought to England in the 12th century. So that's right in the middle there. You see on that shield, you can see the 3 lions. That's on, of course, the England football shirt. And you can also see the red cross, which is the cross of St George on that shield as well. So who was he? He was a brave Roman soldier, and he protested against the Romans' torture of Christians, and he died for his beliefs. That's him. That's a picture of him. Didn't actually live in England at all. He was born in Turkey, what's now Turkey. He lived in the 3rd century. His parents were Christians. He became a Roman soldier, and he wasn't happy about the way that the Romans were persecuting Christians, and for that he was imprisoned and tortured, but he stayed true to his faith. Eventually, unfortunately, beheaded for his faith and for the fact that he did not agree with the way that the Romans were treating Christians. So he, in 1222, at the Council of Oxford, said that the 23rd of April would now be St George's Day, and he replaced St Edmund the Martyr as England's patron saint in the 14th century. In 1415, April the 23rd was made a national feast day, so it's been our national feast day for an awful long time. So, the story of George and the Dragon. George travelled for many months by land and sea until he came to Libya. Here he met a poor hermit who told him that everyone in that land was in great distress, for a dragon had long ravaged the country. Every day, said the old man, he demands the sacrifice of a beautiful maiden, and now all the young girls have been killed. The king's daughter remains alone, and unless we can find a knight who can slay the dragon, she will be sacrificed tomorrow. The king of Egypt will give his daughter in marriage to the champion who overcomes this terrible monster. Now, when St George heard this story, he was determined to try and save the princess. So he rested that night in the hermit's hut. Hermit's, by the way, a person who lives alone. And at daybreak he set out to the valley where the dragon lived. When he drew near, he saw a little procession of women, headed by a beautiful girl dressed in pure Arabian silk. The Princess Sabra was being led by her attendants to the place of death. The knight spurred his horse and overtook the ladies. He comforted them with brave words, and he persuaded the princess to return to the palace. Then he entered the valley. As soon as the dragon saw it, it rushed from his cave, roaring with a sound louder than thunder. Its head was immense, and its tail was 50 feet long. But St George was not afraid. He struck the monster with his spear, and he struck hard, hoping that he would wound it. But the dragon's scales were so hard that the spear broke into 1,000 pieces, and St George fell from his horse. Fortunately, he rolled under an enchanted orange tree, against which poison could not prevail, so that the venomous dragon was unable to hurt him. Within a few minutes he had recovered his strength, and he was able to fight again. He smote the beast with his sword, but the dragon poured poison on him, and his armour split in two. Once more he refreshed himself from the orange tree, and then, with his sword in hand, he rushed at the dragon and pierced it under the wing, where there were no scales, so it fell dead at his feet. And that's a painting by a painter called Uccello, one of my very favourite paintings. I love this painting. Look at the action in it. There's St George charging towards the dragon, hitting the dragon, and there's the princess that he's rescuing. So I thought I'd end this part of our assembly by looking at something from another famous English person called William Shakespeare. Shakespeare was born on the 23rd of April. He's also died on the 23rd of April. That is, as you've just heard, St George's Day. And this particular bit of Shakespeare is from a play called Henry V. Henry's a very famous English king. And in this, Henry is talking to his soldiers. It's a very famous speech, and it's about England, our England. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall, or as a moat defensive to a house, against the envy of less happier lands, this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. And that's Shakespeare, which is a really good way to end our St George's Day presentation. So there you have it, the story of St George and the Dragon. St George was a real person. The story about St George and the Dragon may be made up. Who knows? But it's a great story. So that's Thursday. Thursday is St George's Day, a really important day for all of us who are English. And Friday this week is an important day for us as a school too, as we remember our links with Worcester, South Africa, Worcester Primary School, and a very special person called Syed Selders. Syed is now head of a school in a place called Ceres, which is quite close to Worcester, and he has been a person who we've seen quite often in assemblies, and we've learned a lot about South Africa from him. I'll talk a little bit more about South Africa on Friday and about our links with South Africa and how we've been able to help children in Worcester Primary School over the years. Now, a challenge for you. So from time to time this term, we're going to be having challenges. And our first challenge this term is relating to South Africa Day. It's quite difficult. Here we've got it. The South African national anthem is a difficult national anthem to learn because it's written in lots of different languages. South Africa has a great number of languages, and many of them feature in the South African national anthem. Once in assembly we did this. We all learnt the South African national anthem and sung a little bit of it, and Miss Willis of course led us very finely on that particular day by singing the national anthem all the way through. Your challenge, and here it is, see if you can manage this, is to either record a little bit of you perhaps playing or singing the South African national anthem, or even all of it if you're incredibly clever, and then to send it through to me at the school or to one of your teachers, and we will judge those and see who has managed to do the best job of having a go at the South African national anthem. Lots of languages, do warn you on that one, and you'll have to work really hard, but a challenge isn't a challenge unless it's difficult. So let's give that a go. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this week. I'll have another assembly for you on Friday. I look forward to hearing about all of your exploits, all of the things that you've done during the week, and hope that you enjoy all of the things that your teachers have prepared for you. Be good, have a great week, and we're going to go out to a little bit of the South African national anthem.